Sorry, yes. Thank you, Rinda ma'am. Thanks a lot. Yeah, please
No
keep.
problem. Thank you.
These things do happen sometimes. Okay, sure. So let's try to understand why this combination. If you throw a light on the history, in the early 1950s, the software industries understood like we need a person to lead these efforts, and they want to, or they decided to name it as a project manager or a product manager or a service manager. All these categories, they run in parallel most of the time, and they do quite a few similar tasks. There could be a bit of difference, but more or less they do the same thing. Be it a product, in product you have rather than requirement gatherings, you have vision analysis or R&Ds or market study or something like that. But yes, you have a step there. Then we have, in terms of project, we do have requirement gathering. In terms of services, you do service feasibility, you check out the need and length and scope of the service, and so on and so forth. So more or less you do work on a similar level, you do work on a similar steps. So that's why the project manager includes something like product manager, service manager, support manager, as well as solution manager. These are the different parallels or the nomenclature they were starting using in 1950s, 1960s. Of course, now we have evolved, we can understand the difference, and we will understand the difference. But I don't want to confuse it right now, because first we'll study the project manager in its full capacity, and then we'll start by learning progressively, we'll start understanding what's the difference between product manager, what's the difference for the service manager, and so on and so forth. Then we have something like agility and principles. Nowadays, overall, more than 85% of the industries, they use Agile Scrum as a project methodologies, project development mindset, and what all they want to call it. It's a more or less highly evolved project framework where we normally define something like SDLC, the software development lifecycle. We normally try to define a uniform steps, or rather we define a uniform nomenclature where if somebody says I'm in a process of let's say requirement gathering, I'm in a process of testing, I'm in a process of release, all these words should mean a same thing to everybody across the globe. And that's why we have zeroed down on something called nomenclature. And that's how we slowly steadily evolve in terms of how this agile principle, how these more or less what you can say mumbo jumbos of the project management world to be uniform. And then we define steps in Agile Scrum, as it's the most evolved thought process. We have standardized standardization also. Somebody any question for me? Yes, Neeraj and Mandavana Verma.
No, I'm good. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. If you could please, yes, that'd be really great. No problem. Because the way my thought process works, if somebody is speaking means they have a question. Okay, please pardon me for this. This is a kind of, you can say, manufacturing defect.
No. I should have muted it.
No problem, ma'am. It happens. And we are humans, and please don't take it otherwise. I'm just trying to sit. We are getting to know each other, right? So it's a kind of pass and parcel of that as well. Please don't worry. Okay. And please don't take it otherwise. It's a kind of.
No.
Sure. No problem. So yeah, so okay, so we are talking about the most evolved project management framework where we have good number of steps defined, good number of templates defined. We're going to have a look at one of such templates called minutes of meeting templates today, and we might do some kind of hands-on workshop on minutes of meeting template as well. This is used mostly for the requirement gathering, which is a kind of initial stages whenever you start exploring the vision shared by the product owner or any senior dignitary, like a kind of new entrepreneur, like a kind of the person who shares his or her vision. Okay, this vision has to be converted to a format where we can include that thing in our project management, product management, support management, service management processes. And that's how we progressively start including these things in our day-to-day project management job. Okay, and then framework methodology, we're going to have a look at another framework. The most favorite questions of interviewers are basically difference between waterfall and agile methodology. I don't know why it's really an old wine or very old question, but still many project management interviews, they normally come up with this question. Even one of the agile interviews, they ask this question. So what do you think? the difference between waterfall and agile model. So yes, we might need to understand that in detail, and you should be able to explain that in 4-5 sentences. We'll do that. Don't worry. I'm just trying to warm you up in terms of what all we are covering. Then, as we have discussed, we have talked about job orientedness of this training. So what is job orientedness? We are walking towards acquisition of a job. That's our prime agenda. Getting knowledge is also, of course, there. But the prime and foremost agenda is basically getting job. So for that, interview clearance is our first obstacles. Then to keep job is our next challenge. So for these two challenges, as GuruSchools have already discussed, we have already discussed the way GuruSchool works. We have these 6 pillars. First, instructor-led live training, like the way we are having these right now. Then we have interview support in terms of we'll have mock interview session. We'll have some sort of a standard questionnaires given to you, which you can go through in terms of these are the questions which we need to prepare. And then we need to prepare these answers. You can use the terminology, thought process, whatever, you can use it to remember them. You can have a cue card and other things. We'll discuss those as well. So, but first we need to start preparing ourselves for these interviews. So that's why we have Thursdays and Tuesdays. We have sessions for interview preparations, or they call it resume preparatory sessions, where you normally have all these sample resumes given to you. You can work on your resume, try to make it the most beautiful looking sellable documents, and for that I'm there to work with you as well. And this way we basically start creating or start clearing the obstacles one by one. Then we have vendor interview questionnaires, we have end client questionnaires bank, and so on and so forth. The HR coordinator can share these details with you. If you have any challenge, you can come back to me as well. Please don't worry. And then we have something called on-job support. So wherever you're working on a job and you've got a problem, you can get in touch with me or Prerna ma'am, and we'll try to solve the problem then and there. And so progressively, we'll basically try to acquire that job and keep that job for at least 6 months. Then I believe you have learned quite a good amount of thought processes, tools, and techniques you can do on your own. That's the basic thought process. You can extend the project support as well. Okay. Then we have overall personal development. If you ask me, what did I get in terms of life level? So believe me, the project management actually teach you how to live the life better. Sort out your priorities, sort out your scenarios, try to address your critical task and all those things. So we're going to have a look at it from a life perspectives also. It's not just the project management you do it for building a product or building a project, solution, support, product, whatever it may be, but more or less you're trying to build your life. So it's more or less a life skills, believe me. And then support, and we'll basically try to understand how can we work together, because that will give you an idea how I can support you the best possible way. There could be some techniques which we know better. There could be some techniques which you know by heart. Okay, and there could be some techniques which might be new to both of us. So even I need to go to the canvas, pen, paper, and get those things acquired and then discuss with you. And these things do happen in a real life, because there are clients who go for a really superstitious looking product for their management as well, and we'll discuss that as well. And we'll practice at least 3-4 project management tool sets where we'll try to understand how the basic raw project management work, how I can get everything working for me, and then I can adopt to these evolved tools very easily. Only I need to find out which button to click, when to click, and so on. So something like that, right? So here, the overall agenda of what we're going to do in the next 8 to 12 weeks. Does anybody have any question for me at this moment? Any confusion, contradiction?
No, sir.
Great. So let's start Sri Ganesha. So business analyst. First, we'll start with the business analyst part of our training, where we'll try to understand what you mean by business, what you mean by analysis, what is a reporting, and BA book I already shared just before the class. Please download from any of those sites and start reading. It can be version 2, 3, whatever. Please don't worry about those versions. We'll discuss this along the way. Okay. But here, try to have that BA book and try to understand what does the best practices business analyst should acquire, should acquainted to, and so on. So then how the vision to thoughts to actual requirement, how this transition happen. Okay, because vision is shared by the product owner, as we discussed, right? And we're going to discuss about product owners, function, features, responsibility, roles, everything. But to start with, first we're going to concentrate on business analyst. So what is a business? Can anybody give their thoughts? What do you mean by business? Anyone?
Business is a profitable, profit-making activity.
Wow, good, great, sir. Now, profit making is most of the we are looking for from a commercial angle, sir, right? But there are business we do. So there are business we do for brand building as well. There are business we do to upliftment of society as well, right, sir? So
that's correct.
This is one angle, and these are the other angles as well. Okay. Again, there is no right or wrong. We are all learning together. Yes. Anybody else want to share their thought process?
Business like where we just trade one thing to another to make a revenue or perform any task which is our goal in terms of like making money or like helping socially or something like that.
Great. You, I think, composed it with the length and breadth. That's very rightly said. So business is a kind of activity which you do, of course, to earn profit, to earn revenue, to get better in day-to-day life. But there are ways and means to do this business. Some sort of, you help others. So that's kind of social cause. You build some product. That's kind of for selling it commercially or distributing it to build a brand as well. So when you give a headphone free with a smartphone, the person who is buying a headphone, smartphone will need a headphone. So out of a goodwill, out of a brand building exercise, we give headphone free with the mobile, right? And this way you can also improve your business, increase your brand value throughout, throughout the society, throughout the market, region, the strategies and all those things. So there are good amount of thought process gone into the business building. Anybody else want to share their thought process in terms of what is business?
Some transaction between minimum two people.
Could you please repeat that, sir?
Yeah, transaction between.
Wow. Okay, great. This is really good. So, what is a business? So let's say you are looking for a rented house. You might gone to search for the house on your own, or you might hire a kind of consultant or agent who can basically show you the house or different house available in the given region and so on and so forth. So like that, between these two persons can be a business because he's doing it for the revenue. That person is giving, the agent is giving you a services in return of some revenue. It might be on a transactional level. It might be on a day-to-day level. It might be on a meeting level. Let's think of a consultancy services. Consultancy services is also a business. So what are consultancy services? I go to a doctor and tell him, hey, doctor, I'm having some sort of, problem in my left hand. What do you think? So doctor will say, oh, let me have a look at it. Why don't we do some x-rays? And so on and so forth. So have doctor done anything personally with you? No, he just consulted you. And for that consultations, he might charge you some, money. And that's his way of making revenue. And that's how these are also business. So business is basically trying to build up revenue, a kind of prime importance, trying to uplift our life, trying to uplift our brand, trying to uplift, the society altogether. So there are different means and ways. Even for all these, exporter, importer, they purchase from somebody, they export to another company because they have some licenses. So they are utilizing their licenses for earning money. So you use your skill, knowledge, services to earn money, and that can be businesses. And there are types of businesses like for revenue, for brand building, for society upliftment, for education, for teaching, and so on and so forth. So there are various types of business. Now let's try to understand analysis. Analysis or to analyze is a process where you try to understand the gist of it, try to understand what actually going on. So when you analyze a business, so what you're trying to do, we are trying to understand what that business is for, what is going to do, how is going to earn money, maximum businesses for earning money. Maximum businesses are basically to earn something. You call it goodwill, brand, social recognition, and so on. So, but yes, all these analysis normally we do on the business so that we can understand the business in depth, so that we can understand about the business and the nitty-gritty of it. Now, when you say analyze the business, analysis can be a very, overview, or just have a look at it, just to inspect and so on and so forth. But analysis can be an in-depth process as well. Here, as a business analyst, what we are going to do, we're going to analyze the business requirements specifically. Because this new cadre of workforce have been created to analyze the requirements, to analyze the vision and convert it to a level, convert it to that knowledge level, so that we can hand that knowledge over to the project team where they are good at building them. We are good at collecting requirement. We are good at analyzing business. And that's how the business analysis overall, fall into the whole project management processes. Business analyst is also a project management team, one way or the other. Only the business analysts are the first icebreaker. What do you mean by icebreaker? You are walking on the footpath and you came across a really good looking person. So you say, hi, how are you? That person also say, hi, how are you? This is what we call icebreaker. So the communication starter. In terms of project, business analysts are the basically project starters. They build or they incubate that idea, or they understand the vision, incubate that idea, conceptualize that idea, and convert into the list of requirement. That's the overall layman's definition. If you read the BA book, there's a clear-cut business analyst definition given to it. In business, in the project, you can basically add new thing, you can create new thing, you can add new thing, you can modify a thing, you can change a thing, or you can remove certain things. So these are 4 options available in terms of how you can increase value of the business and so on and so forth. So depending upon these things, whatever analysis you do, the analysis might be called as a gap analysis, new product analysis, new solution analysis, and so on and so forth. Depending upon the scenario, depending upon the various requirement, we do change the name of the analysis. And in many cases, we don't name it specifically, because it's a mix and match of the whole thing. It's a mix and match of solution plus project, or a project plus product, or solution plus services, and so on and so forth. So there are 4 distinct levels in terms of project execution. One is project execution, product execution, services execution, and solution execution, and the combination thereof. So we are looking for these 4 distinct or 4 overlapping execution for which we do requirement gathering. Are you able to hear me? Neeraj couldn't able to hear me. Hello?
We can hear you.
We can hear you. No?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, Neeraj might have some problem. Neeraj, what sometimes happens, sometimes the network bandwidth goes down. So even for me, this thing happened quite a few times. There are some network bandwidth challenges, and we couldn't hear for a couple of seconds, or, might be 4-5 seconds at the most. These things do happens in a real life. So please, take it as a kind of, what you can say, not so great experience of a Zoom. It happens with Google Meet also. It happens with Microsoft Meet also. But again, I believe Zoom is one of the best, believe me, because for Microsoft Team Meets, they are really heavy, software encryption and decryption processes. For Google Meet also, they are really, banging heavy in terms of how the audio packet should transfer. In terms of Zoom, I believe it's a great mix and match of efficiency versus security. I don't know. I'm just sharing my knowledge with you. I don't want to really bog you with all this technicality, but yes, these are some of the challenges. We can call it technical glitches of the evolving software. Okay, so let's bear with it. And if you couldn't, hear me, please say it loudly so that whenever you start hearing, I can explain it again. Do you want me to explain it again? Something, sir? Sir, Madam, Neeraj and Vandana Verma, Madam. Can you hear me, sir, now? Neeraj, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you now, sir.
Okay, great. No problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you want me to repeat anything, madam?
No, I think I'm good.
Sure. And please don't stop yourself if you have questions, if you want me to repeat something, right? Because it's really going to help us in the long run. Thank you. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Most welcome. So what a business analyst do? Business analyst collect the vision from a visionary or the thoughts, whatever he had. The vision can be, I want to improve my attendance management processes digitally. This can be a vision. The thoughts are, yes, I think that biometric at some company or at some hotel, it really helps us out. So yes, let's include this biometric or iris scanning because we have some room which I want to have a very restricted access to, like the accounts room where we keep our, bills, cash and everything. We want to have at least 3 or 4 people only to able to enter to that room. So we have some restricted access. And like this, I want to take the attendance management to a level where we have a control access as well. Now, these are the thoughts. We don't have to implement each and every thought on the day one. They can be progressively implemented, and we'll have a look at those as well. How progressively we can improve the project solution support with a many number of meetings. And this is a kind of ongoing process. Okay, and we'll learn how we can incorporate these things. Then we're going to learn the processes and the tools. The processes to collect vision, to collect thoughts, to convert into requirement. And then we're going to learn tools as well. The simplest possible tool here for MOM is either Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. Is there anybody who don't know Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel? We all know, right? I believe we have working with Microsoft Excel or Microsoft Word for so many years now. So I believe whatever version you have, the version really doesn't matter. We are going to, what you can say, collect requirement in a 1, 2, 3, 4 formats. And we're going to understand how these requirements can be categorized, how the requirements are going to get prioritized, and so on. So these are all, 6, 7 steps we're going to cover in business analyst. Anybody have any difficulty in understanding any of these, or anybody needs some more description from my side?
I'm good.
Great, no problem. So let me move on.
Thank you.
Then we're going to understand the Agile, Scrum, and Scale Agile. These are basically the project management methodology. And we're going to learn the best used project management methodology across North America and Canadian region. There are project management methodologies like ITIL, TSM, Six Sigma. There are really great number of project management methodologies which are specially customized for a given type of project solution support services. But more or less in North America, as a standardized, evolved, developed nation, we normally use Agile Scrum in the maximum places. In couple of places, we still use waterfall methodology, and we're going to learn that as well. Okay, so here we are talking about the way you're conducting your project management. Normally, Agile Scrum is the most evolved project management methodology and used in North America and Canada. As recognized and strategic organizational competence as a subject training and education, SAP. So SAFe is basically one of the most standardized project management methodology going to be in the next few years. So once you understand SAFe is also kind of evolving by its own. We have started accepting SAFe along 2014, 2015 years, but still we are trying to mature it. And I'll basically share the thoughts whenever we learn SAFe, how it's basically getting implemented, what are the things they normally apply as a standard practices, what are the things we normally customize whenever we use this thing. And then product owner is a kind of role given in Scrum, Agile Scrum. But when you go to the SAFe or Scaled Agile level, there could be a product owner representatives, and so on and so forth. Product owners are really very senior persons, so they normally nominate somebody to be there on the Scrum call. And many of you might have experienced this thing. So we're going to understand What type of gaps we need to fill in whenever there's a personal assistant of a product owner is representing him or herself. What about a business analyst from a client side representing product owner, and so on and so forth. So we're going to study 4-5 such roles which are normally represent product owner in a progressive manner. And then we're going to understand what is agility. Agility is basically flexibility. And here we are converting quite a few good amount of business to a digital era. So how we apply agility in such processes, how we apply agility in a gap studies, and so on and so forth. So business agility is basically a kind of flexible model we build in terms of even adopting changes as we go. So that's what, and it's more or less talks about the collaboration with the client on a day-to-day basis. And that's what normally called as a daily meet, scrum meet, and so on and so forth. We're going to learn all these, nitty-gritties of how this matured process is called Agile Scrum will let us manage the project quite, with a great easiness. Of course, there are still, many things to do on top of the matured project management processes, and that also we're going to learn. Okay, so business agility requires everyone involved in delivering solution. So what we are doing, we are concentrating towards delivering the solution, toward constructing, testing, releasing, and all these type of steps involved in delivering the solution. And then we also take help from business leaders, technology leaders. We take help from operations, legal, marketing, finance, and all these departments, various departments in our organization. We take help from these guys, and we're going to learn how and when and what type of processes they use as in standard best practices throughout North America and Canada. Okay, and this is how we're going to learn it progressively, step by step, man. Okay, let me take you further. Project management. This is one of my favorite topic in terms of how to improve your life. Believe me, how to improve your life is one of the main agenda for learning project management. Project management is all about management, managing the product development, project development, services development, SUS development, the skills and tools, techniques to deliver something to the value to the people. As we say, business generates some value in terms of revenue, brand, recognition, society, whatnot. How to improve these processes, how to deliver something of a value to people, and then in terms of software development, how we can improve business processes, how can we improve the construction processes, how we can improve even how we can avert the national disaster impact to the least minimum, and so on. So there are specialized project managers, specialized manager to avert disaster impact as well, as we've seen in Turkey just now. Before a few months ago, the Indian managers have reached there on the ground to reduce the impact or the damage done to the society. And damage is not just one instance, it's a continuous damage, right? Once there are rain, floods, then there are diseases, the diarrhea of the world, the cough and cold of the world, and so on and so forth. Similarly, in terms of these earthquakes, there are challenges in terms of people, they are, under this rubble to be pulled out, and to check out if there are any living persons or any person may need a critical what you can say medical help to be given there. There are dust particle in the air which is really detrimental to your breathing process. How to remove those things, or how to unravel that rubble, parts and pieces of a broken building without much such air damage and blah blah things. So there are good number of tools and techniques involved in just managing that disaster which has happened. You can't go back, you can't do time turner kind of scenario, but still the next few stages you can minimize the blow, so that you give them some food, shelter with some cloth tent. So even if there are earthquakes, and there are if you've seen there are consecutive 3 or 4 earthquakes in this Turkey, right? And so all these Indian helpers, they've gone there with the these tents or temporary covered places for all these guys to sleep at night with the blankets and all those things, with the bare minimum foods requirements, and so on and so forth. So what you do, you try to reduce the blow in terms of management of a worst act. But for the base stack, you try to build in some efficiency. Let's say if you are building some good advertisement, so the project manager should help you out. How can you build better advertisement? Should you get on with a better mic, better processor computer, better video conversion softwares, and so on and so forth. These are all tools and techniques which can help you to do a better advertisement, better YouTube video release, and so on. So this way, we are trying to build some managements to expand our thought process in terms of improving processes, efficiency, efficacy, reducing cost, and so on and so forth. There are specialized managers who know how to leverage best possible natural resources as well. Because nowadays, there is an overall cry of chemical induced food items. So there are specific nutritious experts who talk you about how to eat organic food, how to even check out if the food is organic or not, and so on and so forth. So this way, what we do in the simple possible steps, we try to understand the project, product, services, or combination thereof. Understand the management requirement. What type of management we require? Do this manager have the capability? Have he or she done it in past? Does he know how to control? What do you mean by key process indicators? Does he or she know how to build this tracking or evolution of this project business in a way, and so on and so forth? The tools and techniques, most important is basically documents, yes, and documents are also referred as an artifact. Artifact in the sense, whenever there's a kind of audit or a review, you can present this auditory artifact or the documents as a proof of process, proof of results. Then there are some great evolved great evolved project management softwares like Microsoft Project, Jira, Primavera, and dime a dozen, Open Project, and so on and so forth. Again, we're going to learn at least 2 or 3 in terms of hands-on practice. Even we can use Excel as a Microsoft project planning template. That's how we're going to start. So basic Excel, whatever you have, we're going to start working with that Excel as building a project management plan. Then in terms of how to think, how to act like a project manager, program manager, a kind of CXO level roles and responsibility for a daily execution. So we're going to understand how to improve in terms of a project managers also. And then of course, we have lots and lots of hands-on workshop. Okay. And here what we do, we basically try to build our learnings with all these artifacts, all these things which we create on our own. And then we also work on the interview preparation also. And this is overall project management learnings within that training part of the overall discussion items. Anybody have any question, confusion for me, or any question for me at this moment?
No, sir.
We are
No,
good,
sir.
right? Okay, let me move
Yes.
forward. Then it's kind of last leg, and it's not more, but it's like 2 or 3 sessions mostly. We'll discuss about product owner, where we'll try to understand how product owner can help the business, or what are the expected out of product owner, the roles and responsibility. This is a quite strategic position. What do you mean by strategic position? You normally think for a longer time. There are tacticals and strategics. Tacticals means immediate. If I have a problem with my car, I try to get it resolved. If there are continuous problems with my car, I might try to get the car replaced. So replacing a car might be a strategic, because you are going to replace the car within a month or 2 or 3 or 5 or 4, depending upon your thought process, the monetary availability, and blah, blah, blah things, right? So that way, as far as product owner goes, these are strategic posts where wherever you start envisioning a product, solution, support, services, you try to think it, more years together, months together, at least to give a shape to that idea. As a subject to training and education on roles in terms of specific product owners' contribution to the project industry. And then as a career path, what are the roles and responsibility of a product owner? How do you manage and prioritize the product backlog? This is a kind of requirement list we are talking about. Product backlogs is a list of requirement. And then development priority, which module to be built first. If you're building a building, then of course you need to first prepare the groundwork, build the ground floor, and so on and so forth. So there's a sequential activity for each and every type of project. Even in a normal software project, you don't start on all the modules. So what are the modules you need to start first? What are the modules which are independent, and so on and so forth. So how to do these things, how to plan these things, we're going to learn in terms of product owners building his or her own plan. Then transition product managers, strategies to task for a development. If you're transitioning an old product, if you're enhancing an old product, how do you apply these strategies? Learning from the market. This is specifically for product managers. How do you learn the market, the business need progressively? You try to market a product for a given region, for a given city, for a given county, based on their needs and based on the raw material available, based on the economy of business. And that's how we're going to learn how to understand the market business for a given product, how to build a vision. So if I have a company which span over 6 different countries, I'll check out where I can build this product, which is the most economical place, not always outside North America, believe me, because there are some import conditions, legalizations, enactments, which we need to think it through before planning such activity. And we're going to learn how are such things, we're going to sort it out. And then staying accessible to the development to answer question, confusion, explanation. This is what the Agile Scrum meetings talks about. So these are all serving as a liaison between product and development teams. And these are the few responsibilities of a product owner, which we have just discussed here. Do you get an idea of what product owner does? Anyone and any confusion, or anyone want to specify what do you mean by product owner on your own? Anyone want to explain? Should we also take PMP certification? Shruti ma'am, it's not a need, frankly speaking, because in a whole gamut of interviews and selection, there are very few companies now which normally insist on doing PMP certification. But whenever you try to go for an interview, we need to make sure you have to express your thought process in terms of PMI, PMP, mumbo jumbos, PMI, PMP phrases, which we're going to use throughout the interview, so that the other party will clearly understand, you have in-depth knowledge of PMP, PMI, PM book. Similarly, a BA book for business analyst. Okay, so this way they feel like you are a person of really great study, research and development, and that's how you're coming from a great theoretical background. You know what you're doing, something like that. Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Yeah, sounds good, because when I was going through the job requirements, it said that PMP certification is needed for becoming a PM. So, yeah.
Yes. You can basically choose for a partner, and we'll discuss this offline sometimes. Don't worry. I'll guide you. Okay. So please, don't think like PMP is a necessity. Because, nowadays, during COVID also, quite a few, project managers for North America got their PMP completed from India, from some, partnered Hyderabad, organization and all. And we'll discuss about that. Well, but, overall is, so that's why I think industry all are not looking for PMP, certification as such. Only they want to check if you know what you mean by 10 knowledge area, if you know what you mean by critical task. Well, all these technicality is not included in PMP, PMI, but they are more or less looking for a kind of hands-on project manager, so that you know what you mean by to create a project plan, how do you include agility in your project plan, and so on and so forth. We're going to learn those things, so please don't worry.
Okay, thank you.
Let me move further. Go ahead, please.
One question that I had, as a business analyst, one thing, and I've worked in several different industries. So as a BA, as someone who's been in a entry-level position, after having a little bit of experience, and then now to where I have experience to be a senior business analyst, as I want to transition from BA to PMPO, level of a position, um, how important is domain in that transition process? I mean, because I've worked in several different industries, um, what is your opinion on how important domain is, being fixed in one domain is?
Yeah, it's really great question. And this question normally we should ask ourselves whenever we will look at a JD, the job description. Again, a domain is basically we talk about the area where we know, like say banking. So you know the banking process, what do you mean by overdraft, what do you mean by registration of an account, what are the details we normally take into process in terms of know your customer, the KYC and blah 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 things, right? If you talking about something like logistic company, so what is the best way to ship a kind of delicate part from Mumbai to New York, or from New York to Los Angeles, and so on and so forth. So these are what we normally call as a domain knowledge, the intricacy of a given work culture, work area. Now, the importance, again, as an Indian, I believe the best, thing what we have in our blood is basically to learn new things quite easily or quite, quickly. Indian means I'm not talking about just the Indians. Treat it as a South Africa, South Asian most probably, because we work hard to start with. We really learn these things and we gather these knowledge of the nitty-gritty of the working on the ground, and that's the best part of our life. And so here, even if you don't know a domain knowledge, or if you don't have a ample of domain knowledge, and there will be gap always. So whenever you start working, let's say I worked with logistic and transport domain in the from year 26 to 2010, but now the domain have been improved a bit, improved a lot rather. Means we have we don't have PDS track or sorry.
Sir, sorry, we just missed your voice. I mean, we couldn't hear in between what you were saying.
Yeah, I'll repeat. So when it comes to domain, I worked on a logistic domain from 26 to 2010. Now, if you go to the logistic domain today, everything is, we don't use RFID tag and all. What we do, we normally have a tracking mechanism for the vehicle. So what you do, you normally add a, what you can say, GPS tracker. It might be cell-based GPS, cell tower-based GPS, or the satellite-based GPS, depending upon the need and the economy of the solution. You normally attach those small, rectangle box you might have seen called GPS tracker, which is hardly, fit into your hand if you close your, fingers and all. So it's really smaller piece which is attached to the vehicle. So whenever somebody is transporting an item, you normally cache the GPS tracker number and you can track that GPS throughout the world. It's as simple as that. In previous good old days, we used to use something called RFID, the radio frequency tags, which used to be get, near to the responder and then track this responder actively and so on and so forth. But nowadays it's quite easy. So this way the domain knowledge do change within years. So again, how to keep up with such scenario? Now, the best possible thing is basically go on a Google and search for that particular domain. Let's say if you have a job interview with the hospital. So what you do, you normally go and check out the software they are using, or if you have somebody in that hospital, check out which type of software are they using. Are they using any standardized hospital software? Are they using any special software? Could we find something on that software, and so on so forth. If you know that software is as good as you know the domain, you know their nitty-gritty of day-to-day work. Even if you not, whenever you join such company, they'll give you training, because many softwares basically get customized whenever they implement for a given organization. So let's say if you join something like US military. In US military, they have a good type of tracking system for each and every soldier. Nowadays, after a certain level, you normally induce a small chip in your, lower leg or a hand somewhere, where that chip basically keep track of you as in track your body throughout the world, and something like that. It's simple nowadays. Now that way you have a tracking software. So whenever you deploy troops, you track these troops to these different tracking mechanism. So this way you might learn them, or US military will tell them these are the few secure tracking mechanism we use for these given troops, and so on and so forth. So most of the organizations, whenever you join, they give you some sort of training. But again, to start working towards that proactively is what is the need of the hour, because this makes you stand out of competition. So if you're starting, if you're going to aim for a particular company as an job acquisition, please start learning about their software they use. Please start learning about the project management methodology they use, and so on, so that we can get prepared for them. Whenever there is an interview, you can discuss in their words, you can discuss in their language, you can discuss in their day-to-day mumbo jumbos, and that interviewer might think, yes, he's a part of my team already, and I'll have the least possible hours or days wasted for his or her induction. Induction means you transition from an external entity to an employee of the set. So you are an employee now. So that transition is normally called as an induction. So there's something called induction program. So whenever you join a company, they normally have an induction program for consultant. They normally have an induction program for employee, and so on and so forth. During induction program, they will share the tools, techniques, domains, and all the nitty-gritties. If you know it earlier, it's really best. It's the revision for you, and you can start working from the day one as well. Again, it's a kind of evolutionary scenario. Every situation might not be the ideal. There are some situations like I'm going for an interview of a chemical plant manager. This thing might happen. So for that, I might need to sit with Google for half an hour or 1 hour, or try to understand about the company, about the chemical they build, what type of chemical processes, normally to be used for such chemicals, and blah, blah things. These things do happen in a real life. But again, to target for certain domain is a really best strategy. As far as project manager goes, is it a need? Most of the time, no, but still the client feels that way. Still the interviewer feel that way. So we need to prepare ourselves on the last minute in terms of those domains. Generically, the way I have seen, we normally have interviews with TCS, Wipro, Cognizant, Infosys, and all those other partners. So most of the time, we have to understand the software domain as a domain expertise, and that's what we're going to do throughout this training. And we are going to add with different examples as well. So when I talk about this attendance management system enhancement, it's specifically targeted to the software solution development. So software solution development domain, we're going to learn in depth, and bit of other domains as well, like education and all, as we discuss the example in a progressive manner. But if you're targeting for the domain which you haven't worked on, then you might need to learn certain things just before the interview, draw out some notes, prepare your notes so that you are prepared for the interview in a good sense. So you will be confident. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And then to further dig into that, I also noticed that one thing, as I'm from a more functional BA background, I'm looking at other roles that are more technical in nature. They're asking some kind of coding knowledge or background. So Python, Java, SQL, something like that. Is that something necessary as a BA, or is it something necessary as a PM or PO?
Okay. Let's say you are a supervisor of a manufacturing plant, right? I'll just take a hypothetical example. This manufacturing plant, let's say, create trousers create thousands of trousers per day with all those mechanized farms, mechanized, sewing machines and all those things. So you just put the cloth, and at the other end, you get the shirt or trouser, whatever the plant is for. So these things do happen automatically. Does this mean that if you know the knowledge of sewing, will it help you out? What do you think, sir?
No.
Okay. But again, that's very right answer. But the question is, if you're a plant owner, and if you're looking for a project manager for that sewing plant, will he look for a sewing person who used to do sewing in his older life or earlier years? because that's a belief, right? That's a way we human think. Even if it's not necessary, all the things are getting done by robot, but the owners or the stakeholders or the employers normally think if that person has a swing knowledge, I might hire him or her. Similar will robot. If the person knows how the mechanized arm works, how the VLSI, very large scale integration type of thought processes work. In IT, basically, if the person know about hardware like biometric, like iris scanners, like what you mean by keyboard, mouse, and so on and so forth, or how to replace them. Will it help? No, most probably 99% no. But if you look at the employer, they might want to ask a couple of such, what you can say, googly questions. And for that also, we have to prepare. Yes. And this is a part of, real living life. And this is what I normally called above 80% type of clearance. So if you are looking for excellence, then yes, we need to prepare for these things. As far as project managers do, they normally manage project. They normally manage vendors, manage cost, scope, and everything. So if you have the knowledge, it might be beneficial. But is it required? I'll still say no. But in some scenario, it might be required. Again, depending upon the work, depending upon the product solution support you're going to manage, it varies a bit. But mostly no. Sometimes yes. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes. So in this course, will you be kind of giving us some kind of introduction to some of these areas like SQL or any kind of programming or coding language or anything like that?
No, sir. Actually, it's not required. The SQL, well, if you want, I can, we can an extra session or something like that on SQL, on Python, or whatever we need in terms of if you are basically targeting for such organizations. If you are targeting for some organization who's working in, let's say, artificial intelligence, machine learning, then knowledge of Python is really helpful, because then you know where to find those libraries, how to implement machine learning, and blah, blah things. But yes, that's a kind of, last leg preparation. Whenever we have the JD with us, we normally get a couple of days to prepare. In those things, if they insist Python is a need, we'll go through the nitty-gritty of Python. Okay. Similarly, in terms of healthcare, please go.
Oh no, it's I understand. Like I was saying, like I understand now.
Because for everybody, it might be not a scenario, right? Let's say if say sir have an interview in the US military and they are working on a waterfall. Normally, major industry works on Agile Scrum. So we'll discuss some waterfall thought processes in terms of steps of the waterfall. US military follow, why they follow waterfall. Now we will discuss more about waterfall advantages and so on. So again, these kind of last minute, what you can say, interview preparation is a need in terms of project managers. Because even if you're not going to do it in terms of, you're not going to sit and keyboard and start that Anaconda to program Python program. But of course, so Anaconda is required as an IDE, means integrated development environment, or a person or a programmer, if he needs a machine, he should have Anaconda installed on his machine. Anaconda is a software. It's an integrated development environment for Python. One of the best. Because we teach on Anaconda, I take the classes for Python data science as well, so that I can speak on this topic at length. But overall, if you look at it, these are kind of, patchworks, as I'll say, to clear that interview obstacles. Again, whenever you start doing the job, you will learn more. And there are some customization on top of these domain knowledge as well. So if you're working, let's say, with Python with another software vendor and you join another software vendor, they might do it differently. And these are the kind of, last minute updates or on-job updates we get accustomed to, or we have to accustom to. There are some really weird processes also I've seen even in TCS. But yeah, this is a part and parcel of life. If your group is basically attached to a specific domain, then there are basically customized processes, templates, and all those things, which we'll learn on job as well. So learning is a kind of continuous process for the at least next 6-7 months. So, I'm with you for that much time. And we're going to learn it progressively, even after clearing the interview, many things which we might learn after joining the job. So please be
Okay.
confident. I am there with you, and we're going to work out together.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other questions, sir? No. Anybody else have any question at this moment? We are good.
I'm
right?
good.
Sure.
We're good, yeah.
Sure. Thank you. Let's go ahead. Now let's start with a business analyst. Let's try to understand the basic of business analyst today, so that we know what business analyst does in a day-to-day job. Okay. So let's start with business analyst concept. As a BA, we do requirement gathering. Requirement gathering means the requirements are kind of output, and the discussions, the meetings and all those things. These are kind of input ceremonies which you perform. We do plan meetings, mostly, a few number of meetings on a daily basis. These meetings can be Google Meet, Zoom Meet, personal meet, wine and dine meet, lunch meet, drive with me meet kind of scenario. So there could be many such meetings. And normally, all the business analysts, they are supposed to record the audio, if not video. And yes, there are Zoom recordings, Google Meet recordings and other recordings. If you're doing a business analyst meet, only first you need to intimate others in North America. That's a kind of need of social, thumb rule, where you have to tell them, okay, I'm going to start the recording. So let's stick to the agenda. And this way you can start your meeting, you can start your recording. Now, this audio file, which you created in your personal meet, a lunch meet, drive-through meet, has to be basically a kind of reviewed whenever you go on your desk and try to create these minutes of meeting. In minutes of meeting is basically a kind of a detailed, analysis or a detailed result of the meeting, where I normally include who called the meeting, who collected or who created these minutes of meeting, the agenda of the meeting, the venue and place of the meeting, the type of the meeting, the date the meeting started, the date and time start, date and time end, what all people included in that meeting, what all the issues discussed, what all the issue assigned to an action items, and so on. So these are the basic format of minutes of meeting. And then formalization of a requirement is being done from this meeting of minutes to the list of requirements. So from these minutes of meeting document, we create these requirements and basically catalog it with the list of requirements. And this list of requirement is a major part of system requirement specification, called SRS, or system requirement documentation. Now, there are some companies who also call it what I can say, business requirement documentation or business requirement specification. But to a normal IT firm, business means client. So whenever you get BRD or BRS, this is what is created from the client side. This is the generic thumb rule. But people might use these words sparingly, and that's why many people get confused. So stick to something like SRS or SRD for all system requirement specification created by the technical partner. Most of the BAs, they are with the technical partners, they are with the development company. But there could be a BA who is working with the client, the stakeholders. They can also create BRD or BRS. The document they have created is called BRD or BRS. The document created by the technical partner mostly referred as a SRS or SRD sometimes. Now, these SRS, I'm going to share the templates also with you, what all it includes, so many chapters, so many topics and blah blah things with the guidance as well. So please don't worry on the SRS template. In terms of tools, to add a quality to this SRS, we might add some unified modeling language diagrams called UML diagrams. We might have something called a bird's eye view or a high level diagrams or a conceptual diagrams and so on and so forth. So there are, couple of things added to this SRS to make sure whatever we described as a concept with the requirement list is conclusive in itself, so that the project managers don't have to revisit or reinvent the complete wheel of gathering requirement or validating requirement. But yes, project managers do have a task at hand called validation of a requirement, and we'll study those whenever we're going to do the project management training camps. So here we are basically build some document called SRS. Okay, in SRS you can think of something like SRD, BRD, or BRS or something like that, depending upon your thought process or the company you're going to join it. But I'm going to refer to this document as a SRS, System Requirement Specification. Normally we use SRS rather than System Requirement Specification. So wherever there's an interview question, tell me something about SRS, it means System Requirement Specification. And this System Requirement Specification major inclusion is list of requirement which we have collected from minutes of meeting. And in addition to that, we might have some conceptual diagram, some UML diagram, some SWOT analysis diagram, fishbone diagram, and so on and so forth. Based on these SRS, every development manager, every project manager create a document called Functional Requirement Specification or Functional Specification or Functional Requirement Document. Now, these documents are created by the designers and architects of the world, which are based on SRS. Minutes of meeting, normally 2 or 3 pages. SRS normally 10 to 15 pages. FRS normally more than 50 pages. And normally FRS is a Bible for all those product, project, solutions, support services. Now, if you join NASA, they have FRS for each and every entity they have created. If you have a Mars Land Rover, there's a SRS of around, I think, some 600 pages. There are FRS of around 3,000 pages in terms of, Mars Land Rover, which have around 8 wheel wherever they are finalized. The SRS might be with a couple of options like 4 wheel, 8 wheels, 6 wheels, blah, 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 blah. But FRS, they strictly talk about a completely qualified requirements with a qualified design and architecture documents. That's how the overall progression of documentation in terms of pages. Again, these are the thumb rules. There could be some exceptions, right? And for this, we might going to learn some tools like how to draw a modular diagram, how to draw a UML diagram, how to draw a kind of HLD, high-level diagram also. But if you look at this FRS, they might include this UML, which is developed by the BAs. They might include this conceptual diagram or a high-level diagram. And they also include something called a low-level diagram, which talks about each nut and bolt in terms of Mars Land Rover, each class diagram or object diagram in terms of software development. So this way, the overall progression of business analyst work does happen on a day-to-day basis or a modern IT company. Yes, Pal sir, please go ahead, sir. You have a question for me, sir?
Oh yeah. So see, when you say this SRD or FRD, it's all for waterfall method, right? If you are jumping or if the framework is Agile, this will never come into picture, right?
No, sir. These are all necessary documents. Even Agile ignore total documentation. Agile does basically require basic documentation. These are the Bible we are talking about. Like if you don't have a Bible, you don't know how to live life kind of scenario. So you have to have Bible. So there will be FRS even if you are doing Agile Scrum way. Okay. Even if you look for that, Tesla Cybertruck, there is a FRS available. You can download free of cost. It might be of 2-year-older version, but still you can read that. And this FRS is like a kind of clear-cut understanding of the nut and bolts, clear-cut understanding of the thickness of the body, the frame, the basic frame, the collapsible frame, even
that's all we call it as manual, right?
Come again, I couldn't hear you so clearly.
No, we call that as manual.
Yes, manual, that's right. And actually the help manual, the operational manual comes out of a functional requirement specification. That's the normal industry standard.
Okay.
So your help manual, your operational manual, even the mobile operational manual, which you get with each mobile, right? A 6-page foldable, something, that also part of a functional requirement specification. That's how these documents get generated gradually, progressively, 1 page at a time, and that's how they get evolved throughout their life cycle. Life cycle in saying the construction life cycle we are talking about, the development life cycle we are talking about. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Really great question, sir. Chandni ma'am, please go ahead.
So this FRS, FRD has been created by the BA, right? So like, do they like
No. Wait a minute. SRS is created by the BA. The FRS, FRD created by the designers and architect. SRS is by business analyst. It's a business analyst job. But FRS and FRD based on SRS. So if you have a small error in SRS, which can get magnified into the FRS to a very large level, we'll see that also. No problem. But yes, FRS is owned by BA. That's the only delivery which BA does, which is inclusive of minutes of meeting, high-level diagram, some fishbone diagram, SWOT analysis diagram or something like that, and a couple of UML diagrams for all complex requirements. We're going to do all these things. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Thanks. No, sir, got it. Like I had that thing that FRS is also been built up by the BA, so I just wanted, yeah. Okay.
FRS, we go to the nitty-gritty level. So there are, okay, again, there's another thumb rule. Normally, whenever a BA does business analyst, we don't, assign technology to the BA. So what happens? You don't assign Java, .NET, or you don't assign, what you can say, the nitty-gritty to it. But it's basically a conceptual model, you can say, in a SRS. But in a FRS, you normally zero down. So in a SRS, if you're creating a product like smartphone, in SRS, you might mention it'll be mostly Android phone, but you don't mention the version. It'll be a, for standard user size of 5-inch or 5.6 inch. But in FRS, there'll be separate FRS for an Android phone, Apple phone, BlackBerry phone. There'll be separate FRS for a 5-inch screen phone, 6.5-inch screen phone, and so on. So you can understand the difference between vision, mission, progression, and then difference between implementation level details. So your FRS is your implementation document. SRS is more or less the compatibility of a vision to the given systems. Does that make sense to you, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sure. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes, I just want to make sure, did I understand all these points correctly or not?
Please.
From the initial basis, we have a meetings and about the gathering, and we just gather to collect the requirement of the company or product owner level, what they actually want and everything. And the second step is we just make a minutes of meeting after listening the recording and note down all the key points which we had in the meeting. Sure. Then we build the SRS on those minutes of meeting, right?
Yeah, in between, we have to create a list of requirement which will be copy pasted to the SRS. So list of requirement is output of the MOMs, the minutes of meeting.
Yeah. So we just made a list of requirement which we make with the minutes of meeting, and then we build SRS with the help of minutes of meeting. Right?
That's right. Sir.
And then we use UML diagrams or conceptual diagram or high level diagram,
whatever it is.
And it's a part of SRS, or it's a different document.
It's a part of SRS, sir.
It's a part of SRS.
Yeah.
And SRS after that, our job is almost done. We don't have to deliver anything else after providing these documents, right?
That's right.
The FRS, FRD is a part of technical team or manager or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. That's very right, sir. You just build SRS is the delivery of the BA. That's the final delivery. That's why we say it's easy. It's really a kind of, fresher job to build SRS. If you have domain knowledge, really you can explain it or you can do it the best possible BA. But even if you don't have domain knowledge, you might use something like subject matter experts to, clear those gaps and build some better SRS. So there are some, what you can say, subject matter experts or center of excellence team within your organization, which can help you on day-to-day basis in terms of building better SRS. And every organizations have their SRS template also. I'm going to share a couple of templates with you where we can learn these templates in terms of how they are differ, what are it contents and everything. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Okay, I got it. Yes, I got it.
Sure, no problem. Yes, Purnima, ma'am, please. Thank you, sir.
My question is like, suppose we have to develop a particular software solution, and then business analyst will develop a SRS. Now, now this solution will be developed in a sprint basis. So the single SRS will be developed for the entire sprints that are needed to complete that process, right?
Ma'am, you are confusing project planning with the SRS. Project planning is a really big step. Project planning is
okay.
You
No,
do
like
go ahead, please.
my question was like, suppose there is a requirement that has come up, and one SRS is developed.
Right.
Now this requirement will go for further for FRS development to the technical and the architecture team,
Right.
and then FRS is also built up. Now it has to go to development phase. In development phase, there will be various sprints, because not entire everything will be cleared up in a single sprint,
That's
or
right.
there will be it will be broken into different sprints.
But very rightly said.
So it will be broken into different sprints. Document remains one, but
Not
then
by
we
BA, not by
okay.
Right now, we are considering or we are concentrating on BA thought processes. Then we'll move to the project management. So BA thought process ends whenever you share the conceptualization of a solution, which basically via a document called SRS, where we normally include the high-level diagram. We normally include a couple of UML diagrams. We might or might not include fishbone diagrams, SWOT diagrams, and there are 13, 15 such diagrams which we're going to practice with the SRS. But whenever you come, whenever you start planning the project, that's a project manager's job, which start after you, given this knowledge to the project manager, which is a kind of completion of your tenure in most of the projects. Does that answer your question, ma'am?
I'm still a little confused on this thing that that's understood that it will go to a program management level for breaking up into sprints.
Right.
But then is the reference document that single SRS, or there will be different SRSs to accomplish the entire requirement that was needed by a client to be delivered?
Sure. We're going to understand something called live document and a release document. Okay. As you say, multiple SRS. Normally, there are multiple SRS because SRS released on 2nd February is a SRS. SRS released on 8th February is another SRS. We build it incrementally, or we keep modifying it as per the discussion, as per the latest MOM, latest list of requirements. There could be requirements which are retired, which are cancelled, which are scrapped due to some legal challenges, due to some resource challenges, due to some, no, we don't want this now, something like that, right? So there are requirements, and such way we normally keep building these SRS. Now, whenever
okay, so got it. So basically, it will be an evolving document.
Exactly, ma'am. And this is what we call a release document. Now, FRS is a live document. What is a live document? Whenever you want an FRS, you might get the latest FRS from the cloud, from the development team, because FRS keep updating on almost hourly, minute by minute or hourly basis. SRS is normally released once a day, and that's a kind of thumb rule. You don't release 2 SRS in a day. But yes, normally once in a day, and that's how the BA responsibility completes whenever it releases the SRS. You might email or you might mark final on your cloud server. So when you mark final, the cloud server takes this document, compile it and put it in a share folder for whatever user have access or authentication and authorization to access that document. This is the way SRS works. FRS is normally handled by multiple teams. Multiple teams. I'm not talking multiple person. SRS can be built with multiple business analysts, but that's also far and few. Mostly SRS is labeled by an author and labeled by a modifier with a single business analyst. And there could
Got
be
it, sir.
there could be an SRS, like there are 2-3 SRS for a given product as well. As I told you, right? Toyota Corolla 2021, Toyota Corolla 2022, Toyota Corolla 2023. These are all cars with almost same engine, same body, only they have increased the size of indicator, reduced the size of headlamp, and blah, blah, blah thing. Like this, there will be separate SRS, at least you can say a per year basis. But more or less, the FRS will continue. But if you want to have an FRS, you need to mention there, okay, I want a FRS for 2023 Toyota Corolla and something like that. So this way, we keep building our document and we keep releasing document. Nowadays, there are bigger companies who normally what they're doing, once you create the SRS, you are also attached to the project management team to review their FRS, to review their test cases, to check out if the software or the product is in line with the SRS, whatever you created, and so on and so forth. So that to make sure whatever requirement you have created, whatever vision you have conceived has to be delivered in the same context, in the similar lines. Okay, so this is a kind of new advancement. We'll discuss all it to one step at a time. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You have a question, sir?
Yes, sir. I just want to make sure one thing, like this SRS document. So we will kind of be like keep updating if we are having like new meeting with the product owner or the company or the client. So we got some new requirements. So whenever we get the new requirement or new changes, we just update the SRS in the system. So
Right.
everyone can be notified and they can see like if there's anything they have to change it on their side in the project management team, like development team, or changing in the FRS as well. So this thing we're gonna keep going until the end of the project, right? Like until
End of the product
until the
project.
closing of the project.
Right, right. Very rightly said.
Okay,
And
cool.
learn about what do you mean by end of the life cycle as well. Okay.
I mean, like the completion of the project
Yeah,
when
sure.
we are almost completed the project. So
Completion of
because
a
we
product
can
is-
have like some extra changes or extra
Yes.
requirements by the end of the phase as well, now. So we can
Right.
just keep updating and keep in touch.
That's right. And normally, once a
Okay.
kind of release, you normally mention in the these documents also. I'll talk you about the document revision history also, and we'll discuss how to update those as well. So if you join a project in between, and if somebody else business analyst, SRS is given to you, how to modify and all those things, I'll guide you on that. Please don't worry. Sure.
Okay,
Yes,
sir.
good
Thank
morning.
you.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So
ma'am.
once the SRS document is done, and the project starts, so and we cannot keep on adding the requirements, right? Because then that will change the scope.
It's a $1 million question, ma'am. Nowadays, we work on something called Agile Scrum, where the requirements keeps coming every day. Don't talk
No,
about, if you talk about waterfall, then yes, there's a requirement
Yeah.
phase completion, and then we start the development and testing in parallel, and then
Yeah.
right? But that's a kind of sequential execution. Nowadays, the business are changing so frequently. Might be due to COVID, might be due to many other challenges. So we need to keep flexibility in this requirement documentation also. So what do you mean by being flexible? Trying to understand the changes. Well, of course, the client will pay if he's going to do the same thing again and again, and that's how we work. But that's what the client is there for, right? He's going to get the work done from us, and he's going to pay for that. That's a normal business or normal engagement type of rules we have nowadays. So every flexibility, whatever we incorporate in our SRS will be reflected in FRS, will be reflected in all these things. We don't say requirement gathering completed now, because requirements is a part of ongoing projects. Only at a conceptual level where we know what has to be done in a one conceptual concrete manner, then we transition the requirement gathering to the project management team. And in the project management team, the requirements are gathered by either analysts, if they are attached to that same project, or by the developers themselves, or the designers and architects themselves. Depending upon the change in requirement, they might change the FRS. The SRS might be left as it is. So most of the SRS, they might kind of get crippled up or get out of date. But yes, that's the way the overall project organization is. There are some companies who have analysts updating that SRS, even if there are no discussions because of the discussions done by the architects and designer of the world. But that's a kind of far and few. Normally, we release the last FRS kind of scenario on the, last SRS kind of scenario on our cloud server and leave it at that. But FRS keep updating throughout the product project solution lifecycle. Now, lifecycle end also doesn't end whenever you deliver the product, whenever you deliver the solution services, because then there is something called warranty, then there's something called enhancement, maintenance, and blah, blah things. So all these things are kind of continuous work culture we are included in today's modern world. Does that make sense? Anybody have any question on that?
No,
So you
thank
mean
you, sir.
that, so I have a question. So like if it is like ongoing even after the delivery, like
Yes,
then is it like the product is like released version wise as well, right? So
that's right.
like for example, if there is a release of any app, then
Mhm.
you know they keep releasing it version by version, and then even during those versions, different versions, this SRS document keeps evolving, and that is the same document which we are still maintaining, right?
That's right, ma'am. But
Okay.
the more maintainable document is normally the FRS rather than SRS. SRS can be discontinued because SRS is owned by business analysts who are more or less, what I can say, they are icebreakers, or they are the initial vision conceiver, initial vision builder, or initial vision creators. But when you have a concrete idea, like you are decided, you need to build a bridge, you need to build a building, you need to enhance the attendance management system, you need to build a hospital system. Once you have finalized at a conceptual level, you might assign a project manager and a senior team member to that, so that we can evolve the idea to a level where we can start constructing. Do you get this? Do you get this? Understanding, ma'am, what I'm trying to say here?
Yes, yes.
So once you understand this, the transition is not a ribbon cutting, or you might have 5 or 6 project kickoff meetings. These are normally called as project kickoff meeting whenever the BA transition document to the project managers. Okay, so these kickoff meetings, there could be 1 or there could be 6, 7 kickoff meetings, depending upon the complexity of project. So whenever you talk about, even for that matter, product kickoff meeting, you talk about product, like I want to build a cyber truck like the Tesla. Even I'm copying the architecture design document, I might not get the same parts in India. I'm just giving a hypothetical example to you how this happens in a real life. Even for cyber truck, if the cyber truck have been revised for almost 15-20 times. If you look at the cyber truck actual site, and you see the older models, they were supposed to be developed and so on and so forth. Now we are almost in a 18th or 20th version, I believe. I'm not very sure about the number though, but you can go to Tesla and have a look at that thing. And this is how we version the product, even in software, life cycles. We might have product release 1.3.4.2, and in the next 6 months, we might release 1.3.4.3, and so on and so forth. Depending, these are the version number statistics, x.x.x.x. There are 4-digit or 32-bit versioning numbering system accepted by all project managers across the globe. Something like domain name. You know the domain name, right? x.x.x.x.
Yes.
Domain number, not domain name, domain number. So like that, this is a standardized thumb rule accepted over the globe. Like we have a versioning system, like 1.0.0.0.0, my one, my first version, or 0.0.0.1 is my draft version, and so on and so forth. We're going to understand how these digits reflects to an actual version on the ground for a given document, for a given software as well. This versioning is standard across the industry. Even if you go to auto, you'll have these versioning system. They might not share with the outsider, but internally they may, they use these standardized best practices, and that's how they get what you can say complied with these, best practices implementation in their given factory or manufacturing plant. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is it like too complicated? Should we stop here? What do you think? Or let's stop here. Basically, I actually, I think. Oh, come on. Yes, it's almost 9:30. No problem. So here, the way we normally keep learning these things. So today we had a look at overall an umbrella of things done by business analyst. From tomorrow onwards, we'll go to each of these nitty-gritty in our next session, and we'll start building our a kind of minutes of meeting. Okay, please have a look at this recording. I'm going to release this recording in a few hours, and please try to build your overall thought process in terms of what business analysts do, what business analysis is expected as an output. Okay, in terms of minutes of meeting, in terms of SRS, in terms of these UML diagrams and all those things. We have just learned the names and nitty-gritty of it. We are going to do a hands-on practice on each of these things. Okay. Yes, Ajay sir, you have a question for me, sir?
Yes. So one thing that I experienced in my previous role as a business analyst was I was creating, and you said the job of the BA is creating the SRS or BRD, and then the development team creates the FRS or FRD, correct?
Right, sir.
So in my previous role, I was creating the SRS and FRD or BRD when talking to the project manager and product owner. And then I was doing that in a Google Doc, for example. I was doing that in a Google Doc, and anytime any any changes in that SRS came up, I would create a new Google Doc with the same name, just have it like version 2, version 3, and so on and so forth.
Right, right.
And then I would meet with the IT manager and the IT team, and I would also be the one creating the FRD or the FRS via Trello. And so when that happened, every sprint, if there's any changes, they would put a Trello card back. And so we would go back and forth in Trello, updating that FRS according to the needs as per each sprint and as per the requirement. So is that something that's normal, or is it, because I've had that in my previous 2 roles where I was the one doing both BRD as well as FRD or FRS?
Yeah, that's kind of exceptional because, when you look at FRS or FRD, there are lots of technicality to be included in that. Like I told you, like the class diagrams, the object diagram, the infrastructure diagram, where to put the server, what type of, 24-hour backup system we need to implement. Do you have that software? Do you have that warranty of a server, and so on and so forth. So FRS is a huge document, which is normally maintained by the architect and the designers of the world. It doesn't mean that developers couldn't contribute, the business analysts couldn't contribute. They do contribute, but contribute is different than ownership. Okay.
Okay.
SRS is owned by business analyst. That's his or her document. That's his or her name as an author on that thing. We'll basically see whenever we do the document history tracking kind of scenario. Now I have opened up, what I can say, minutes of meeting here. Now, whenever I have, saved this document after whatever updation I have done today, I'll go here, I'll go to the same folder, and I'll give this MOM template a version number or a release date. Here, in my company where I work, it can be a release document. So what I say, release document, 25th Feb 2023, again underscore, let's say 9:30 p.m. and I'll save this. And then, well, I'll have the, rather than template, I have a project name. So like enhancing attendance management system. Okay, and yeah, there should be a hyphen here as well. Could you see this name, the way I'm giving the file name?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this is how it, so minutes of meeting for enhancing attendance management system, 24th Feb 2023 at 9:30 p.m. I'm releasing this document and I'll say save on the cloud server. So the file name changed so that this is my new release. Of course, this is not complete, but overall, you got an idea, right? This is how we do the release of this thing. And if it's a versioning thing, I might, save it at a folder, a given folder. Rather than date, I'll have a version number here. So what I'll have, so I'll have 1.25 22.33.14. And I'll say save. This is my version number. So there'll be another separate sheet which refer to what this version number is and the date relevance of it for a kind of corresponding evolution of a given document in a version wise. So this is for enhancing attendance management system version 1.22.32.44. It's an Excel sheet on my cloud server. And in the cloud server, I can go and check out the file logs for who have released this. Okay, Ravindra have released this. Is released on what time? Well, the cloud server can give me the exact timestamp. What is meant by timestamp? You have year, month, day, hour, 24-hour format, minutes, second, nanoseconds. These are all numbers. So for January, it's 01. For February, it's 02, and so on and so forth. So we have all these numbers saved as a timestamp for a given file. And that's how we maintain the versions. And believe me, even if you try, you can't save the file, even if you two sitting side by side at the same nanosecond type of timestamp. We've tried that. But yes, this question might come. That's why I've answered it proactively. Does that make a sense, sir?
Yes.
So this is the way the release and what you can say, release and versioning system works hand in hand. They are similar, but there are some organizations who choose either one of them. Or there are some documents who are labeled either released released documents and live document. Live document means with the timestamp. So their release is as per the timestamp. The document management system, the cloud server, the SharePoint server maintains such separate files within their database with the change, additions, modifications, and all those things. Okay, this is a part of document management system. Does that clarify your doubts, sir?
Yes.
Sure. So let's stop here. Let me share this video with you in a couple of hours, and then in the next session we might discuss more, or we might start working on something called minutes of meeting. How do you basically build these minutes of meeting? What are the way to build these minutes of meeting? Then we basically move to the list of requirement and so on and so forth. Okay. Chalo then. Anybody have any questions for me at this moment?
No, sir.
That's it. The flow is
No,
good.
sir.
Flow is good. And one request.
Sure, sir.
If there are any long questions, can they send it separately to you, so that we move quickly?
No problem, sir. Don't worry about these things. See, schedule, we are not, basically these are really life skills. You can't, time it. Like you learn in 15 seconds or half an hour. So I have kept the time flexible. That's why we say 8 to 10 weeks. So don't worry. We can,
Gotcha.
elongate it to 12 weeks in case that's a need or something like that. Please don't worry. Let me worry about that. You please keep asking questions. If it's too long, I might say, let's discuss in our next session. This might happen. Please don't worry on that.
Right. And what I need to say, since we are at the basics of the concepts, and the flow get disturbed.
No, don't worry about this, sir. See, we are all learning. If you miss anything, please keep asking via WhatsApp, email, whatever you feel easier. And I'm fine with that as well. Or you can ask in our next session. So whenever we start session, I normally check out. If you have any question, please do let me know. Those kind of scenario. Okay.
All right. All right.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for your time. Bye. Have a good night. Take care.
Bye.
Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. You too. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.